So today, I'm always delighted, and particularly today, to catch up with a very good friend of the Dot Media Centre and the Parallel Lives Network, and now a friend as well, Kavita Ashok in India. So from a good morning from me to a good afternoon from you, with a 4.5 hour difference. How are you keeping?
Thank you so much, John, and Parallel Lives. It's such a pleasure, immense joy to be on your platform. And I'm so happy I get to connect with people of, all flavors, all thought processes and their mindsets. So let's get rolling and create a very, very interesting talk on environment, which normally people think that climate change is boring. So we want to break that myth today.
Absolutely. Challenge people to rise to the challenge, maybe, of having the conversation with people about the environment that's not negatively focused or on particular groups, particularly here. We, think people like Extinction Rebellion are in the media all the time with from a negative perspective. But in fact, what they're talking about, when you get beyond the way that they're trying to raise that profile, is very, very important. Now, of course, the impact of climate change on the environment on me here in Leicester, in the middle of the UK, will probably be flooding, okay, which we seem to get more and more of now, and also things like temperatures. So variations in temperature. So it's not just hot; it's extreme heat. It's not just cold; it's extreme heat, extreme cold. Whereas we're talking about low-lying areas. I used to come from London originally, where suddenly air pollution was a big thing. So I think depend where you are in the world, climate change can affect you. But it's important that we capture these stories, isn't it, to make people aware that if you live there, the impact on these people is that, but it might be you because it might affect supply chains and all sorts of things.
See, presently anywhere that we are in the world now, especially during the last 1.5 years with COVID, we've all learned to survive and battle, the hardships. And climate change has played a very, very crucial role. And besides the virus, we've also had bigger natural disasters throughout the world. So whether it is a landslide or flooding in India, or whether it's, too much rainfall and, mismanagement of the, sanitation, poor sanitation in New York, or whether it's a wildfire, whatever you name, it's a typhoon or a hurricane somewhere, on the coast. We've all learned that climate change is here to stay, and it's time to address it very, very specifically. No more dilly-dallying on the topic anymore. It's really a serious issue, and I'm sure the politicians of the world are now sitting up and understanding that this is just not an election propaganda, no more.
Yeah. I think when we spoke last time, actually, on the last 2 occasions, there'd been some quite big disasters there with the dam breaking in India and stuff, and flooding and massive loss of life. And I remember saying to you as well, are you finding that more politicians are not just using sound bites and playing to the crowd, but they're actually doing it? And I think one of the things you told me, which was quite interesting, was that the lower level politicians, the local politicians, not the national ones, were starting to run on those tickets as well, by saying to people, I'll do something about it where we are now. So not kind of that India perspective, but more sort of where we are in our state, in our city, the kind of impact on us. And I guess that's really where that normalization comes in, isn't it? Where people don't just add it on, it's part of the consideration when we do it from the beginning of anything.
See, I think a local politician firstly is answerable to the local people. The people living in that area, the locality, they ask him questions. What happened to the food prices? Why are they shooting up? What's the price of maize and corn and wheat and rice? And, we are unable to afford it. And the sanitation of the area, or you may say whether it's the roads or the infrastructure. So the local politician is firstly answerable. It's very difficult for each person to reach the top, the top authority in the country, whether it's US or India or Brazil or wherever. So you're not connected. Everyone's not connected right there, and it's not possible. So the local authorities are answerable, whether it's a municipal corporation, a municipality, or a county, wherever whichever part of the world you are. So I think it's time that local politicians, I thought, should take the onus on themselves that if I'm promising something to the people of my locality, I'm answerable, not the top person the person at the top. So I think it made a little shift in the paradigm.
Yeah, so by making it local politics, it's actually, you can almost vote them out or vote for someone else or hold them to account more, because once they get that kind of that lofty heights of national government, they almost become unreachable from people, but also they're almost out of reach from other political parties, the media, and then they kind of seem to be in collusion with big business as well sometimes as well, isn't it? We've kind of moved into that phase. So I like that fact of talking about it locally means we can probably do something about it where we are. Okay, now we want to talk particularly today about things like agriculture and crops. And so why did you raise this issue? I do like it when you send me was it a direct message on Twitter and go, John, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So there's
John,
obviously a reason why it came up as a topic for you.
I am so passionate about my work, John, that, I don't think even twice before addressing or writing a mail to someone or requesting people to pick up a particular thing which need to be addressed, or maybe even by the government if it's sidelined. I don't mind bringing it into the limelight. Hence, I wrote to you directly and I said, let's talk about what's happening in agriculture and climate change. Why are people not addressing it as a very serious issue? And why people are not paying attention? People are only talking of carbon emission and global warming. What about agriculture? Food is the future. Every day we are living on food. That's sustenance. So I think when food is the power for a person to move every day particularly, so why not address it? So hence I thought agriculture and climate crisis needs to be addressed. Yeah.
I guess also picking up on that, and that was only a couple of days that you did that as well. So I think it's 2 or 3 days ago. So we move pretty quick, don't we, as a team? So that's good. I think we're kind of dominated at the moment with that kind of post-Brexit thing, with everyone one eye on Christmas about nothing's getting through. I'm sure you've seen it in your media about we've got a big shortage of lorry drivers. And they're trying to blame COVID, but of course it's all to do with Brexit and workers and the way we treat people. But I think also one of the things that's come out of COVID here in the UK is that we suddenly realised just how far our food came. A lot of people didn't really give it very much thought. We'd become almost like lazy or immune to thinking about it. Where our meat comes from, where our vegetables come from, where our potatoes come from, where our bread comes from. And I think a lot of people, if they're genuinely honest with themselves in a conversation with others, would say, well, actually, I never realised that we didn't make that here, or we didn't grow that here, or just how far maybe our bread comes. So I think we don't think, and we're not challenged to think about agriculture and crops, maybe in the way that you are, or if I was talking to you and you were in Nairobi, or I was talking to you in Phnom Penh. When you're in an urban environment, you tend to think that your food comes from somewhere else, and the impact of climate change on those people is not something that's in the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, that's right. I think, for this particular thing, I want to start by telling you one thing, that in India, I think 2 years back, the Ministry of Food came up with this amazing project, which was called Go Local. This was particularly also for all kinds of crafts, handicrafts, artisans, but also to eat local produce. Hence, discouraging too much of importing of food. Like I said, I want to eat only Californian apples. I want dates from such a place. I want maple syrup from somewhere. I want Colombian coffee. That's okay. That's amazing. That's welcome, because every country has slots of people who can afford to do that. But the idea behind the thing was to promote the local farmer. Firstly, to support the local farmer. Agriculture, promoting agriculture, local agriculture, whether it's coffee plantation or whether it's growing cotton or whether it's, rice or wheat, whatever's popular here in our side of the world. So it was about asking people to, even go and buy, consumers to go and buy local produce, that is local fruits, local vegetables, local crops. Because if you're not, contributing in supporting of your own economy, then how do you think globally? I don't think if I don't, work in my own country, I can talk big things about global warming and, doing global campaigns. First, let me start small. So every little step counts. Wherever in the world there are people like me working in their own areas, I think everyone's a volunteer and everyone can take their leadership skill forward by adding 100, 400, 10,000, 20,000 people, or maybe 10 lakh people with them. So that way we can make a change. So I think even in agriculture, it is like this, that if governments support local agriculture, that I think should be the first step.
Yeah. So you said 2 years ago. So was this pandemic, or only just before the pandemic, really?
No, it was
The
before
local
the
campaign. Yeah.
No, it had nothing to do with the pandemic. This campaign came much before the pandemic. Yeah, before it. So I think it was a forethought that, finally we need to support our own farmers. We need people. See, if the farmer is starving, if the farmer doesn't have enough, how is he going to work? How is he going to produce? And if you don't give him facilities of water, electricity, tube wells, irrigation, new techniques, new seeds, new fertilizers, and less of pesticides, all these have come into the government policies. So wherever in the world such policies are being formulated, and particularly I know of India, that it has been in support of giving incentive for even families of farmers not to leave their land, because a lot of migration has been happening from the farmlands to the urban cities in search of jobs and livelihoods. So I understand that if a farmer is a very self-sufficient, so his family can live there, and that thing can carry on for further generations. Recently, what is happening in the world is everyone's leaving that thing. People are finding it demeaning and boring, young people, and they're moving to cities. And trust me, John, not everybody has a gold job. People are doing, small menial jobs, but they think we are urban, we are living in the city. So I think the idea is to keep the younger generation, to youth, motivated and give them facilities so that they stick to their lands, and in the bargain the economy gains out of it.
Yeah, I guess also I don't want to kind of get bogged down in the whole kind of farmers protests that you guys have had there and stuff, because I know it's quite complicated, and I think as sometimes as an outsider you can have an opinion based on your own media, but it's only when you've got friends that locally you can turn around and say, well, explain it to me in kind of simple terms. But I guess it's all part of that, isn't it? Which is, you can't expect people to stay on their land and help be part of that campaign and then change the law, which makes it more difficult for them, or maybe even if it is in their best interest, you've got to explain it in a way that they understand. Because I think if you come from a country where maybe you have low level or quite high level as well, sort of corruption and lack of transparency and all these sorts of things, sometimes even a really good idea can be rejected based on the fact that, well, actually the last 10 things out of your mouth weren't necessarily truthful. This is a great idea, but how can I tell the difference? What's the impact on me? And I think this is again the role that the media plays in explaining to the sort of the common person, if you like, what the impact of these things are is really important.
Without getting into the political debate about it, because I don't think I would be in a position to answer that.
I know it's a very political thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very, very political question. But what I understand is that sometimes, government, if any particular government of a country makes a move, which is a new step. So, change is not always welcome like this. Sometimes all human beings, even I'm we are very resistant to change. Someone says, okay, Kavita, don't do yoga. Please go start jogging. So I'll take 2 years to understand, why can't I do yoga? Why will I do jogging? So, to explain that. So any new law which comes in, whether it is beneficial to the particular person or not, will take time to be adapted. And many a times, meetings and negotiations and sittings have been taking place in New Delhi. I live in New Delhi, so I know there's a lot of meetings happening, and the ministers are meeting the farmers, and I'm sure it'll be solved, because it's already been 1.5 years, and you can imagine the wastage of resources and time. And the crops, they have been so ignored. Can you imagine, they're all rotting in the farmlands, and people are sitting here on borders and protesting. So I think everyone has to understand that, please sit amicably and sort this out, because ultimately everyone, even a local consumer like me, is going to suffer. If I have to buy potato, tomato, one day that price is going to come to me. That high price inflation, which is going to happen, is going to come to me. So I think we need to sit down and sort this out. Without dialogue, nothing can be sorted.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I read an article the other day, and I thought about you, particularly with your use of social media, and it was talking to a group of people that specialize in running peace talks all around the world. And they said the amount of times that in a closed room, in an environment where with two protagonists, they actually make quite a lot of progress, and as soon as they step out, the campaigns on social media run by both sides that are fake almost have mitigated any progress that's been made, because there's already noise about it on the outside. And what they were saying is if we were going to have peace talks, then one of the things needs to be not just sit around the table, there needs to be a moratorium on the social media that both sides run. Absolutely. In order to give the peace talks a chance, because they're kind of stopping it on the inside. And I think sometimes when we do have these changes that are driven by, in some cases, yeah, like I said, that it's very political, but there's not anything that's not very political, you know, particularly in the UK here as well, and the COVID, you know, all our personal protection equipment and stuff like it's been mired in money being made by friends and brothers and mates and schoolmates of people, you know, of equipment that's then not useful. So I think the media does a great job of kind of amplifying that. But then when something positive does come along that's going to involve some pain with changes and will impact on people, but maybe explaining what the compensations are for those changes because it's for the long-term benefits of people, the media is not very good at that. And really the social media has a role to play there, but we're always up against those protagonists that are trying to get us to disagree rather than those that are trying to use something free, a free technology, in order for us to explain that. Do you find that when you're trying to be positive on social media that you get a lot of negativity from people? I know you get amazing support. I mean, whenever you tag me into anything, my Twitter feed lights up. Lots of different people supporting you. But I mean, do you get that pushback as well?
Yeah, I do sometimes, because I think people sometimes feel that you're blindly optimistic and, you know, one can't. Somehow people feel that even if something good is happening, it is human tendency to think that there is some evil behind it, you know. We want to turn around and see what is the hidden motive behind it. It's not always like that. Let's believe there is goodness in the world. I think we've all forgotten that there is goodness in the world. If I want to do something good for you, why would another person think, no, she has some motivation behind it, she has some another reason behind it? No, it isn't like that. Sometimes we selflessly want to do good work for people. So I think agriculture, even the media has to understand that agriculture as an industry, as I'm calling it an industry because it is a huge industry. And for a developing country like India or many other countries where agriculture is providing a great percentage of livelihood to people in villages and otherwise, you know, the food industry itself. So I think it's time for media to understand the depth and not to take it lightly and make a noise about whatever is happening, you know, little things, because ultimately it's the common man or the consumer is ignorant. Whatever comes on television, I think 70% of the people believe whatever comes on social media, and nobody has the time to go into the depth and understand. So there are few people like us who do study, who want to understand what's happening, what are the laws, I mean, you know, in the detail. So moral of the story, I think, is that agriculture is a serious issue. Let's call it a very, very serious industry, because it also includes livestock and, you know, dairy. See, there are so many things associated: dairy, livestock, crops, and there's a lot of import, export. So there are a lot of people involved in this huge livelihood, and it's a big industry. So it's time to sit up and understand, because in tomorrow's world, food is also going to be a challenge besides water. I always say the water wars are coming, but food wars are not far behind, because once the world gets into that, you know, we get into the deficit. So of course there is going to be a big challenge for everyone.
It's really interesting, actually, because the thing I've written here next to talk to you about is water. And you use water wars, and I was going to say, they often say that the conflicts of the future will be fought around resources. So water, access to things, you know, land as well, productive land. And, you know, I think the last time I spoke to you, there'd been that big disaster, I think in Uttar Pradesh, wasn't it, with the dam breaking? Uttarakhand, yeah. And, you know, with the dam breaking, and a lot of that, it kind of seemed to play out, that was around mismanagement, shutting something, it wasn't then being monitored, all the kind of human error type stuff as well. And of course, nature will always find a way to exploit human error or corruption through sort of breaking through, as water tends to do. But so, I mean, is water a real issue where you are there in Delhi? I mean, as an urban environment, is access to clean water or one of those challenges from an infrastructure point of view as well?
See, we have a challenge. See, if you're talking of Delhi, where I stay, the capital of India, right? So we have a river which is called the Yamuna, right? Delhi is situated on the bank of Yamuna. So the river Yamuna has a restoration plan which is going on for the last few years. It's called the Yamuna Restoration Plan. So I'm just quoting an example to make understand what is the status, how it's what is affecting. So presently the Yamuna has been so polluted because of industrial waste coming from Uttar Pradesh, and factories and tanneries and all kinds of. It has been, it's like a big chemical pond. I don't even want to call it a river, because when I go to the Yamuna banks, we did some shows on Yamuna bank, standing there, I couldn't breathe. I was like this with a handkerchief on my nose. I couldn't even breathe to talk about there, about the river. So there was a lot of pollution, and both the central and the state government are bent upon basically trying to see who takes the credit for the cleansing of the Yamuna.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing because as political people, they should be both focused on who's able to clean it up first, and better policies and better administration. But the state government, that is the Delhi government, and the central government, because there are policies and there is jurisdiction, there are too many things, administrative powers and all that. I would really request that please use your power and your energy to clean it up first. People do so much cleansing and they have 2 hoardings. People do so much cleansing, they have 10 shows on radio and propaganda on the local streets that we've cleaned this. But actually, Yamuna is very, very dirty. So I understand our source of water is the river Yamuna, right? So like, if the river is not clean, our vegetables are dirty. So much of drinking water supposedly should be coming from the Yamuna, but it is not drinkable anymore. There were tests for the Yamuna water, and they all looked like, what should I say? I don't want to use the word. They were like full of mud and muck. I don't know how the local people are even drinking it. See, John, not everybody can afford a water filter or a purifier at home. Let's talk of everyone, local. I mean, every even a worker in a mill, or a construction worker making a house. Do you think these people can afford filtered water and ROs at home? They can't. So water is so dirty, so polluted, that I think drinkable water is going to be the first challenge for us. Forget about washing and other things or industries. Even to drink water is going to become a menace very soon, I'm sure.
Do you think we'll get to a critical point? I mean, if you were to imagine a critical point there for where you live in Delhi, I mean, do you see? I mean, is COVID that critical point? Is it something that's affected every level of society? Yes, differently. You know what I mean? Someone said to me the other day, or I read, I think it was, we're all in different boats, but we're all on the same sea when it comes to COVID, which I thought was a good analogy. That it's an opportunity to make some really kind of difficult decisions and turn around and say to people, no, we have this build back better here. It's like, well, it wasn't good before, so let's move it in a different direction, not build back better from how it was before. Let's move in a different direction. Do you see there being a turning point? Is it a political turning point? Is it a people power turning point? Is it a disaster power point? Is it Delhi flooding? Is it something drastic like that that's going to make a difference?
I think that more than economy's got a big setback, of course, with COVID, because industries, whatever, automobiles, IT, jobs, millions of people have become jobless, sitting at home. There's a lot of depression. There's a lot of mental breakdown. So many people had breakdowns, and it is a very sad story with so much domestic violence. COVID is not only focusing on on economical thrashing that we've all had. I think it's a total breakdown of even the human power to live and survive. So many people have lost that also. But I think that besides COVID, I would take it as if people want to restart their lives, I think this is the ignition point. Start fresh. Whether it's your relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's the economy, I think the government and the people both have to get together and understand that the new normal is going to be more interesting, more challenging than what we had before the COVID.
What age group do you tend to focus at? Because obviously your NGO, Tree for Life, I mean, it's you do fantastic stuff, and I love talking to you about your plastic campaigns and planting trees and stuff like that. Do you find that when you go into schools, primary schools, secondary schools, university students, they're almost at the point now where they understand, and it's almost we've got to wait 10 years for some of them to be a bit older to be able to set up the businesses that are going to use things in a sustainable way and kind of wait for our generation in the nicest possible way to die out. But it's whether the earth, I guess, or the globe can survive the sort of 30, 40, 50 years it needs to get that younger generation that Greta's motivated, for example, the young people that you have motivated talking to, the people that Tina and I speak to with eco schools in Leicester. It's going to take 20 years for when they're like 25, to 30 to do something.
Absolutely. I am all in awe of the younger generation because I think that they are so savvy, so aware of whatever is happening in the environment. And presently, if you see in all schools in India, we have environmental clubs. We have eco clubs, and it's a very good move by this, by the education system to have these kind of clubs in every school, because people are every Saturday or every Friday, at least once a week, they're getting together and they're talking about it and they're doing campaigns. Hence, I'm able to associate very easily with them because you just go to a school and you associate with the eco club and they then, get with you and make it happen because they're interested. So I think there's a lot of awareness in younger children. And secondly, I think they are more savvy than what I was. I think when I was in school, I didn't speak of environment. I think all we were focused was on sports or some cultural activities or some dancing and hopping and doing this and some debates and all that. Okay. But environment was never such an issue. But now I think a lot of people like me are pushing that environment into schools, and we are making sure that younger children are talking about it. They are planting things. They are talking of no plastic. They're talking of consumerism, older children. And colleges, of course, are very, very active in this. So there is a movement, there is a shift, and I'm sure it's only for the better. There is a shift. I'm very hopeful.
Yes, I think back to when I was at school, maybe, 15, 40 years ago, then you're talking about, what did you know? Well, I studied geography and geology, which from London was an interesting perspective to do. So you learned about the sort of the environment almost through farming and human geography, if you like. And then everyone was aware of the oceans, probably because of, whaling, certain impacts, things like that, maybe some disasters like, oil tanker disasters. But now when I think to my boys, they're 20, they're both in their early 20s, from talking to them at school, the environment was more something that they did. They had an eco club, there was an environmental monitor.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really important, isn't it? I mean, from a tree of life perspective, do you get to the point where you've only got 24 hours in a day there in Delhi, like I've got 24 hours in a day here in Leicester. So you get quite picky, I guess. It almost, time challenges you when you're trying to do something that you feel was important, to actually focus on where you can make the most difference in a positive way, because you're going to equip people with the skills to be able to do something that's going to help them. Do you have a specific school campaign, or do you try to keep it quite wide, what you do with Tree for Life, and make it very kind of visual to the public through events and stuff?
I totally believe that, already only talking, first we talk, we create a dialogue. But I also believe in doing some physical work with the children or youth, because I think when you're involved outdoors, then you understand the power and the blessing of nature only when you're there. If I sit in a classroom and I just give a 2 hours lecture every week, after 2 weeks, children will get bored of me, and even college students are not bothered. So when we step out, we involve them in the project, whether it's a cloth bank or a no plastic, or whether it's plantation or giving away of seeds, or even talking of sustainable living, whether we do a waste management workshop and we teach to create compost. I mean, anything. This could be for housewives also. We just did recently something in January. So what I'm saying is that I believe in practicality. I believe in doing it practical. I just don't believe in talk, because I think enough talking I already do on television and other things. I need, and even, people feel a part of the team. So the idea is to create a team, to create the spirit. Once the team spirit is created, even when people are back home, it registers in their mind, okay, we were part of it. So they're more aware.
Yeah. So it's that kind of more, you're part of a collective movement where you're bringing change by, you can do something yourself as an individual.
Absolutely.
I guess that's the power, isn't it? That you have you feel as if you're empowered to make those kind of decisions.
Absolutely. I want to create a leader out of everyone there. I don't want to be the leader. I just lead, and then I say, okay, now you all know what to do. Now go ahead. So it's very nice, because I see such youthful energy, and even, with slum people in the slums, when I do campaigns, Even uneducated people they are so happy, and so they feel very proud to be part of a campaign. See, there comes the power of the campaign, because when a person owns to be a part of it, that's the winning spree. Just not going and dictating. I'm sure nobody wants it anymore. People are very full up here with so much of knowledge on media and politicians. They're fed up of all that, their lectures. They want something to do, some creative work. So that makes it very successful. And touch wood, all my campaigns till now have had a very, very good response, whether I've worked with women or I've done, I go do something in slums, or whether I go to extremely posh elitist colleges, universities. Everywhere I think we get the welcome, because we only go to create the spirit. We don't go and say that you should do this, you should do that. We create a spirit, a dialogue, and then we do the campaign. So it is very successful.
Yeah, having a dialogue, it's kind of really important, isn't it? One of the things I made a note down here, I was looking through the network archives earlier up in the library, was about sort of clearing of trees in the Amazon for making land for agricultural use, burning. Obviously there's a real kind of burning, you called it a burning issue as well, didn't you, when we were talking earlier? Things like in Africa, like clearing things for wood in various locations. And in Lesotho, a colleague of mine, Ken Dunn from Africa's Gift, they've been working on sort of the impact on women's health of burning as well, the indoors environment. Is that something that is an issue for you there when you go out and do your campaigns, particularly in those sort of slum-like areas? Are people still getting are health issues from burning things?
Yeah. So yes, of course, in India we had, if you're talking of women's health, there has been a lot of issue, because firewood was basically used even for cooking since ages. But even now, a major part of India lives in villages and remote areas, and where there are forest and vegetation. So people were still using the local firewood to create it. Now the Indian government, if I may mention, has come up with a plan which is called the Ujjwala Gas Yojana, the Pradhan Mantri. That means the Prime Minister has come up with this Ujjwala Yojana, which was to give one gas cylinder to every woman. So it was a woman-oriented scheme. I think nowhere in the world it has happened before, that a gas cylinder was provided to every woman, whether you're living in the Northeast and you're poor, you have no money, or whether you're living in Kerala or Kashmir, it doesn't matter. If you have a household, and it was basically, it came up as like a woman-oriented campaign, and it was very successful, because the idea was to promote women's health by saying that, listen, you are burning firewood, and you're taking in the carbon, and you're choking on that smoke, so let's put a stop to it. It was a very successful campaign, John, and I would very lightly like to mention that it was so privileged. I felt so privileged that I was part of the campaign, in the sense that I mean, what do you say, I was there at the launching of the campaign in Bhubaneswar in Odisha, and also I got to speak about my NGO, and I was the face of the film also, which was used as a national campaign. So sometimes you have these blessings in disguise, because I totally believe in women's health, and it was such a privilege to work for this project. So I think that women's health, of course, in the agriculture industry, we have to pay more attention, because women are doing a lot of work, whether it's cutting of crops, sowing of seeds, fetching of water from wells. Sometimes in India, you have to walk 14 kilometers, 13 kilometers just to get one pot of water for drinking. And then watering is a problem of the plants. So there are a lot of issues. Crop rotation, sometimes, they're educating farmers and women about which seed to use now, when should the other seed be used, what not to do. So there are a lot of technicalities in agriculture. I think we don't even know ABC about it. But if women are educated in agriculture also, I think we will make a great, great transformation in the whole economy and the productivity as well.
Yeah, I guess it's connecting these issues together, isn't it? Someone comes along and goes, we're going to have a health campaign about women. We're going to have a health campaign. We're going to have a campaign about women, about domestic violence. We're going to have a campaign about this. That you need that connectivity, because you suddenly realise that the mental health and well-being and health of a woman is connected to all of these other things. Before you even think about the woman herself, she's impacted by the environment, in the way that they're treated and that kind of stuff as well.
I think the simple thing is, John, if I'm not healthy, myself, I'm talking about, I'm educated woman, I live in a nice house, and I'm privileged to have so many of God's blessings here with me. So what I'm saying is, if I'm not in good health, how does one expect me to get that productivity out of my work? So similarly, for people, for women who are poor, who are working in the farms, who are cutting the crops, who are bringing it to the mandis or local markets for sale, whether it's vegetable, fruit, or crops, or whatever local, local art, that's also part of agriculture. Whether it's dairy farming, poultry, women are involved everywhere. So I think, uh, first, yes, the health of a woman is very, very important. And secondly, I think educating women, making them a part of it. And also, I think the remuneration that they receive, let's not forget this. In agriculture, it's very important to get a very, very justified remuneration. Let not there be any discrimination that she's a woman, she will sell it for cheaper, her jam, her jellies, her, products. No. So I think that way, a lot of schemes have been taken out, which are inviting women to come up, step up, whether they want to do mushroom farming, whether they want to, make jam, whether they want to do, they want to make honey, whether they want to do something else. So I think organic soaps. So lot of industry is getting subsidies from the government now. I think it should be all over the world, and let's not just focus on India. It should be all over.
As always with these conversations, it terrifies the life out of me because we talk about parallel lives and the network. Yeah, I wrote next here about microfinance, and you just mentioned money again. It's very weird, very strange. We're very connected in so many different levels.
Yes.
It's been proven now. I think there's no debate about it anymore. About the fact that if money comes into a family through the woman, things change. The family benefits and that kind of stuff. And if it comes in through a man, the man will look after himself. Very generalised, I know, but that's kind of I think the philosophy now. What's the access like for these women that you're talking about? About honey and mushrooms and artisan stuff. Someone that wants to make something for tourists, maybe. Are those finance systems, access to microfinance systems, well established now, or are they still very kind of regional? Are there people that are excluded? What's your opinion on that?
No, they are very, very, very organized now, because recently I went for a talk in conversation with government people from the government, and it was very beautiful because the authoritative personalities from that particular agriculture and food industry were also women. So it was very nice to connect and talk to them on that national platform. And they spoke about, I didn't even know how many schemes they are running, because once you step out, you need to understand what all is happening. So they told me that if you want to ever do an organic farming or something in the hills, or something, you want to do set up a small industry or a small plant somewhere, or even, and there were people who had grown mushrooms and they were making so much money. They were uneducated women, from villages, who came up and said that, they were the testimonials who said, oh, we are making so much money and I feel so proud. I'm making local, snacks and, papads, and I'm making these honeys and soap bars. And so it's beautiful to see that if the government is supportive, women can do a lot. We have the power. Sometimes I think uneducated people with a little incentive can go miles ahead of even an educated person. They have the will.
Absolutely. And I guess also, from that, the people making that money there with those testimonials are sort of looking after their children, and they'll be healthier. They're making sure they get to school, that kind of education. And of course, and to educate a girl is almost like the most amazing thing that you can do, because it unlocks so many other doors going forward for that local community and and the world, really, and the country. So I think they're all connected, aren't they?
John, I think things have changed around the world now. We can, take a little pride in saying that, yes, today a girl child is more educated than it was 20 years back or 15 years back. Because I see, when I go to villages, or whether it's in Rajasthan or whether it's in, Uttarakhand, I travel a lot. So I go to Rajasthan also, and Uttarakhand a lot, and Himachal, all these states I go and I see every little teeny meeny girl with 2 plats is going to school. She's going to a local school or a big school, it doesn't matter. As far as she's getting a basic education, and she knows her maths and calculations. See, actually in life, you need that, you need communication, you need a little bit of calculation of mathematics, you know your numbers. So I think...
Well, also you don't sell your jam cheaper Do you? You understand that there's a value to it? Yeah, that's the other key. Yeah, to education.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Even if the girls are able to calculate their numbers correctly in life, they can run a better home. They can help, around at home. And even if they are married, they can, of course, keep on working or be part of whatever the family is doing. It's the options are limitless. So I think that I'm very happy to see that when I travel to the hills and when you're going up in your car or whatever, tram or whatever, you see little girls going to school, and I feel so happy. I always stop and talk to them. I like to talk to these little girls and see which class are you in, what are you studying, and they have amazing answers. This happened with me even in Bhutan. I must mention that I went to Bhutan 4 years back, and we went to a school, and there were these very, very sweet little girls, and they were all so cheerful and so excited about, we are studying this, and they knew about things like Napa Valley, and I was so surprised. I said, look at this little girl, she knows of Napa Valley, she's studying in Bhutan. So education is a big thing, it just shrinks the whole globe and brings it into your, little, in your palms, and it's so easy to, excel once you're educated.
Okay, so I've told you I've got 2 boys that are now young men, and I know you've got children as well. So what kind of things do you talk to your family about? Are they kind of believers like you? Have you worn them down to the point now where they're also interested in making a change?
Yeah, I have 2 daughters, John, and they're like your children. They are also in their 20s, and my girls have always been brought up even before I got into the the environment thing and, the campaign, health and environment campaigns. I always, as a mother, was very responsible in sharing with my children that, your city is your responsibility. That was the first thing I taught them. It's not just your home or your compound, So whenever my little girls used to go out, they used to carry that wrapper of sweet in their pocket and not throw it till they found a dustbin. So I think little habits need to be imbibed. We need to, as I always say, you need to sow the seeds very early in the soil if you want to see a good result. I can't wait for my daughter to become 25 and then tell her, child, don't do this. She will never listen. So our main, motivation for meeting with younger people and children, nursery, KG, little children is because when you sow the seed when they're so little, it's very, very easy to, for that fruit to happen when they're 15, 20, 25. So I think it's good to start early. So with my children, I started very early, and I think they will be role models themselves, when they get married and they settle and they will have children of their own. So I think it's going to be, I think we should pass this lineage of awareness from one parent to the other.
Yeah, I'm terrified of getting really old and just being wheeled out for a little bit of word of wisdom, and then they'll put me back in a cupboard. So
no.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
No, they won't, because see, if you are a parent who also gives, I think now we're talking of parenting. I think we need to. I think the boundary, even a parent has to understand with the child. Where do you draw the line? And how much do you step into their boundary, because once they get 20, 25, they're adults. So we need to respect that. I think once you give space, respect, you reciprocate that. Yeah.
True. So just to wrap up then, what's coming up in the next few weeks and the next few months for you with Tree of Life?
See, Tree of Life, I'm planning to do, because all through COVID, we've been working on health. Health is still there. And although the numbers have really, really fallen, even in India and all over the world, I think it's come down. I really don't pray for another wave to come at all. We just want it to subside. That should be our universal prayer for every country, every region. But I think environment will be more on the forefront in the coming months, because I think it took a little bit of a backseat during the COVID. We couldn't step out and do much. So I would really think engaging once again, because in Delhi and in India, schools have not yet opened. They are just starting to open now. So that was a big drawback. We did not have, children and university and colleges and schools to go to. So now from 1st September, some part of India has opened up its schools. So the more, it opens up, besides the economy, the education system and the colleges, schools, institutes open up, we will be able to get back to our routine and maybe do even better projects with children. So sometimes we do like a spring festival. Sometimes I do a winter festival, around Christmas. So the festival is not just about one day. We do it like 2 days at a particular place, and we invite schools to do a zillion things. It's everything from, art and drama and dance and poetry and debates and competitions, exhibitions. So that is a very, very lively thing. So maybe that should be, I wish I do it very, very soon. So let's see.
Yeah. And obviously next month, I think we have the COP26
Yes.
big international meeting here in Glasgow. I think it's in October, isn't it? Is it October or November? I can't remember now. I'm losing track of time. And I think maybe we could catch up then. Maybe when it's actually on for those couple of days, it would be nice. I'm sure you'll be very busy as well, giving commentary there. But it'd be nice to have a conversation about maybe your aspect from a.
Definitely, we'll do that, and definitely we'll address the COP, the next COP 25. But I would also, my dream is one day to come to UK and whatever college or university or whatever your audience is, I would love to interact once with them one-on-one. That's one of my ambitions.
Absolutely. Well, we need to be working towards making that happen, don't we? That's the main thing.
Yeah, it would be such a beautiful thing, because sometimes you keep on talking and you want to meet the people in person and feel so, it's another feeling. So I think the idea next year, once this COVID thing subside, would be to connect more people, to connect to more people. And what I would like to say is, like, I start the line from India and connect the dots throughout the globe to make it a green planet.
Absolutely. One dot at a time. That's it. I like that. Kavita, so much. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I love getting your messages, because I normally wake up to them in the morning, because you're ahead of me. I wake up and you've sent me, I'm checking my phone, and it's just like, John, we need to talk about a burning challenge of the future, climate change and agriculture and crops. I've even written it down and quoted it, and it's just like, let's do it in the next couple of days, and it's great. And I love your enthusiasm and your passion, but also the simplicity with which you explain that we can actually make it work. And so therefore it's not sort of political level conversation. It's almost the practical nature of your experience of working in the media and what you're doing there, and also using technology, being realistic about who your audience is and how you can bring change. And I think that's why I like capturing these and sharing them across the network, because I think there's people out there that kind of need your permission for them to do what they need to be done, and you're inspired by the fact that they've done it. And I just think they, particularly as a woman, I think it's really important that we get away from men telling us what we can be doing and women's initiatives, which the world is full of. So it's lovely to connect with you, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, John, and Parallel Lives. And I'm sure I also want to thank Tina, because I know she's somewhere there.
Yeah, always capturing the social media side of it.
I want to also thank her from the bottom of my heart, all the lovely audience who always are there for Parallel Lives Network. And let's work more towards creating beautiful harmony between mankind and nature. Thank you.
Lovely.
So much.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John. Thanks.